So in today's session, right, we're going to talk about node packages or node modules. So far we have seen a couple of commands, npm install, npm uninstall. We didn't look at npm update. So as the command says, right, if you have a package, so yesterday we were talking about packages and versions. So we saw that in the package.json. So if you see the package.json, it has a chalk version of 1.0.0. Now let us say that when you started the project 3 months ago, chalk version was 1.0.0 and you want to update it to the latest version, say 1.1.0. So all you need to do is run npm update and it is going to check for all the packages in your dependencies as well as dev dependencies and peer dependencies, and it goes and gets those updated packages for you. If you want to update only one package, you can run npm update the package name. In this case, it is going to update only that one package and not the entire list in your package.json. Also, we have seen the options like -g, which we're going to work more with today, --save, --save dev, where we have seen --save puts the contents into the dependencies, and whereas --save devs put the packages in the development dependencies. We also looked at npm init, where you initialize a new package.json file. Let me make this full screen. Where you initialize a new package.json. Today we are going to work with npm add user. So once we create our own node module, the easiest way to publish it, the way to publish it by adding user or your credentials and then pushing the package to the npm repository using npm add user and npm publish. We're going to look at that a bit later. Next, npm who am I returns the npm username to the terminal. As of now, if you run this on your machine, you should not be able to get anything. You can directly try this. Open any git bash and directly type npm who am I without any spaces. Since I did not set up my own machine, it clearly says here, if you can see the error message, npm who am I requires you to be logged in. You need to authorize this machine using npm add user. Since we have not yet added ourselves as add user, npm who am I is going to return empty. Also, you can run the command called as npm ls, and it's going to list all the modules that are all the modules that are installed in the current folder. If you want to get all the ones in the global, I think so it is -g, if I'm not wrong. npm ls -g, yes. So this is going to print out the tree structure of all the modules that is installed on your machine globally. Whereas npm ls in a folder where already node packages are there or a package.json is there will print the list of commands that is present in that particular folder. Similarly, to check the outdated packages in your application, let us say that you have run your project, you have released 1.0 and you are going to the next release. Since our applications are versioned with the exact number, we are not going to change it very frequently. But before you start off the next release for your project, you want to see how many packages in your repository have been outdated. So you can check for the list of outdated packages and then decide whether you want to upgrade to the new version or not. So this is helpful between releases. Also, yesterday we were talking about scripts in Node.js, which, for example, in this package.json, we had the scripts called as test. Similarly, you can add other scripts also inside this. I'll show you how to do it. So for instance, if I go to the example3 folder, clear the console and run npm and the name of the script called as test, it is going to return saying that no test specified, test failed, see above for more information. The no test specified message is printed here. For instance, I can write another script called as start. The start script, I'm going to say node index.js. What this is going to do is that this is a command which will get run that will launch index.js. So previously we used to run node index.js to see the output. Now you can run npm start and then it is going to do the exact same thing. These are scripts in Node.js. When we look at a few more components today, some more advanced libraries, we can see some scripts which can be run as post-install scripts. So if a package is installed, what you want to do after that, and so on. So there's a huge configuration available with this. You can also create your own things called as npm start, npm stop, and npm test. When we are working with our Node packages, we are going to deal with, when we are going to open it, work with our own packages, we are going to deal with a command called as NPM link. NPM link creates a symbolic link of the current project in your application. This will make more sense when we work with it. Next, NPM publish and NPM unpublish. As you must have guessed, these are used to be pushing your report code to the NPM registry. How do you associate a Sublime text file with your terminal? So I did not associate a Sublime text file with a terminal. What I have done is that I have installed a package called as Open Terminal here. So you can go to Google and type Sublime Text 3 Open Terminal plugin. This is one setting out there which you could use when you to open a command prompt here. So I'll give you the exact name of the package which I'm using. It is called as Terminal. So you can go to the, when you have the package manager, we spoke about packagecontrol.io yesterday. In the packagecontrol.io, we click on install. Then you pick your Sublime Text 3 or Sublime Text 2 version. Copy this, and then you come back to your Sublime Text, press Ctrl tilde, and you can paste this here. And then once this executes and you press Command Shift P, you'll get this window, or Ctrl Shift P in case of this thing. You click on install, and then you get the install package window which you're going to see here. Here you can type terminal. Since terminal package is already installed on my machine, you will be able to see it. You will not be able to see it here, but when you run it, you'll be able to see the terminal. When you hit enter, it is going to install. Once it is installed, you can right click inside any file and you'll see this command called as Open Terminal here. And then when you click on it, a terminal gets opened at that location. So does that help, Vasu? Yes, definitely. This is very helpful and handy when working with Node.js, at least for now. So the next part is about Package.json. The beauty about Package.json, as we already saw yesterday, is that it consists of all the metadata needed for your project. Okay, so if you have used IDEs, right? IDEs create IDE-specific file that consists of configurations, the settings, the setups, everything that is needed to run this project. Similarly, Package.json consists of all the information we need to do that. So we're going to talk a bit more about Package.json today. Yesterday we spoke about the two main important fields that is needed for a Package.json. One is the name of your project. It must be short, should not have a JS or Node word inside it. If you are going to publish your package in the NPM repository, we need to check the availability. I'll tell you how to check the availability. Next, we're going to have a version. So we spoke about the Semver format, how Node and all its package modules follow, where you have a major version, minor version, and a patch. Next, we're going to talk about the description attribute, where you can talk more about your package. So when somebody searches the NPM repository, it will be easy, you can find your package. Next, a list of keywords that will help you in searching your package. Homepage URL, the URL for your project. Also, it's very good to specify the bugs for your project. So quick poll, how many of you guys have a GitHub account or know how GitHub, or at least use GitHub? So let me show you something about this. So I'm going to take you to my GitHub account. I have quite a lot of projects which are published in the Node.js world. Apart from that, I do a lot of work with my the web development space also. So this is my GitHub profile. That's me. If you don't know how I look, that's me. So I am based out of Hyderabad here in India. So I have written quite a few Node modules myself and then published it for the greater good. So if you look at any Node.js repository, every repository in your GitHub has a link called as issues. So when you have the link called as issues, so this is a place where people would come and raise issues for your project. So if you see this, right, I have written my own database called as DiskDB. Okay, this is a Node module which we might not look at through the session, but you can run a command like npm install diskdb and it installs it on the machine. So if I click here, it is going to take me to the NPM page for this particular module. That is here. As you can see from here, it consists of all the information about the project which is there. So I like keeping things very well documented so that people will not have any issues. So on the right hand side of the page, you see something called as stats. Stats say that there were 20 downloads in the last day, 95 downloads in the last week, and 341 downloads of this package in the last month. There are 2 open issues on GitHub and no pull requests. So these are the list of keywords that I have used to describe. This particular package is dependent on 3 modules called as Node UID, UUID, Merge, and Chop. There are 3 modules out there which use my package and then are built on top of it. They use this package called as diskdb, and they have built their own Node modules using this as a dependency, or this becomes a dependent in that package. Coming back to the issues link, when I click on 2 open issues, it takes me to the GitHub page. When you or somebody is trying to evaluate this particular package, if it is good for your application, typically how you check is you go to the GitHub page, check when was the application last updated. So this is kind of a stable release. So this is a prototype database which I have written for testing purposes and writing quick apps and prototyping your ideas. So it's pretty much stable. I'm not updating this or anything. So the last update which I did was about 7 months ago, and then I've not done anything. Next is the number of stars this application has. How good or how bad it is depends on number of stars. How many people have forked this repo, and then how many people are watching this repo for changes. That is a primary concern. Next thing is that you can click on the issues link and see how many issues are there. So far there were totally 6 issues. If I remove this, hit enter, there were totally 6 issues which were raised on this. There are still 2 open issues. So this whole database which I have created is a synchronous database. Excuse me. So one of the guy had a requirement that he wants to make it as an asynchronous. So he has forked this repository and he's working on it to make it asynchronous. So so I kept the issue open. So there are other things also here which says that find method in this does not return the correct result when query contains more than one property. So this is another issue which was faced by him. So sometimes the issues also provide solutions. So I still didn't test this solution out, but if I test it out, it's going to work, and then I'm going to close this issue by replacing my solution. So this is how you evaluate generally a GitHub or a Node module, how good or how bad is it. So this is just something which I wrote. Let me show you something which is popular. If you go to npmjs.com, on the home page you have a list of top packages. Let's pick something which we are going to use probably in the future. It's called Express. Right? When you click on this, these are like the proper facts. You can see the collaborators, how many times it is downloaded in the last day, the last month, last week, and last month. How many open issues are there, how many pull requests are there. As you can see, this is a huge repository, so many people are working on it. There are 24 dependencies for this project, and there are 4,900 and probably 50 more projects dependent on this thing. So as you can see, this is a huge project, pretty well documented. If you want to know about all the open issues, you can click on the GitHub link. On the top, you can see the number of stars. It has around 18,000 stars for this project. It has around 3,700 forks, and around 1,200 people are watching this. Some projects which are maintained by multiple people are tagged and maintained very neatly. Because this is used by a lot of people, they keep all these things, whether it's a discussion, an idea, enhancement, a question, a bug, and so on. Also, if you're looking at big projects and thinking of how good or how bad it is to adopt it, you can click on the milestone link. When you click on the milestone link, you'll see the future releases for this application. Okay, so you can look at the milestones and identify what is going to happen. So this will give you a good idea of whether you should consider this particular package for your project or not. Going back to the GitHub repository, you can see when was this package last updated. So a month ago is the latest, 15 days ago. So they added a few examples here. Yep, 15 days ago was the latest. Also, you can check out the other branches. Generally, projects which are this big run separate branches for each version. So let us say that the current version, the way you know the current version is, you can generally add a badge like this for the version, or you can open the package.json file and the version number will tell you what is the actual version. It's 4.12.3. Let us say that you're considering to use this particular node module in your projects. You actually open up and see 4.x branch. See what are the changes happening, what are the things going on. So looks like this branch is pretty much stable. Nobody is making any changes. Maybe you can check out the 5.0 branch, which I guess pretty much everybody making changes. I think that is also stagnated. 6 months ago, let me see if there is another one which is going on 5.x. Nope, this development has pretty much stagnated for this. So you can be rest assured that whatever is in the master is going to be stable for quite some time. And then you can read about the documentation, quick start guides, and everything which comes up with this project. So you guys have any questions on how to check out a node package on NPM, match it with their GitHub counterpart, and analyze how to understand if a package is good or not for your application. So coming back to our question at hand, the reason you guys need a GitHub account is because every single node package is linked to a GitHub counterpart. Till recently, NPM did not have a private package concept. Recently, NPM launched NPM.js private package. They recently launched this feature called as private modules in NPM, where you could create modules where nobody can use it, but you have to pay for these modules. So generally, they have created a concept called as scopes, which you're going to discuss a bit later in today, if time permits. Otherwise, we'll do it in the next session, of how you can create your own private node packages. Till then, everything, whatever you do, will be linked up from your GitHub account. So as you can see here, bugs. This is another section in your package.json people add. It says an object specifying the URL of the issue tracker and or the email address to send an issue to. Both fields are not compulsory. The entire bug property on the package.json is not mandatory. Next, a license property. You can specify a license for your package, so people know when they're consuming your package whether they should use it or not, or if they have to provide any attribution back to you while using your packages, or they need to pay you money and so on. So people is another property on this. Yesterday we saw a property called as author. You can also have another property called as contributors. None of them is hard and fastly written inside the package.json. So this is a JSON structure, you can create any property on it. But please make sure that it's as clean as possible and do not add any unnecessary information on it. You can also specify configuration parameters. You can look up this URL about the config. A config object can be used to set configurations. So generally we have a task runner like grunt or gulp where we manage all these configurations. But in case you're not planning to use a task runner, you could actually add these things, like the same way how we created a start method in our package.json to initialize our application. We can also add a configuration and then pass in the configuration values also. So like, and then add a start command that references the npm underscore package underscore config underscore port environment variable, where the user could override that by doing npm config set whatever application, set the config value and use it. So we rarely do a thing like this in Node.js unless until it is very proprietary to the architect who has developed the package.json and he does not want to use any external configuration tools. Next, we have also seen the dependencies, dev dependencies. We're going to deal with it a bit more. So these not necessarily have to be NPM packages. In place of your version, you can give URL of the tarball which can be downloaded and or installed. You can do that as well. GitHub URL along with the tag or branch that can be supplied to Git checkout. The local path is the package to the local repository. We're going to deal with this when we write our own modules a bit later. So next we talked about dev dependency yesterday. Listing those dependencies needed for development of your package or module. These dependencies will be installed only if someone does an npm install in the source directory of your packages. However, for someone just using the package in his or her project, npm install will not download the dev dependencies. So to quickly explain this, the chalk module, if you see here in their package.json, has two sections. One is called as dependencies and one is called as dev dependencies. You see that in the node modules which got created, the Mocha and Mocha, two modules are never downloaded in this. Because when you run npm install chalk, it's going to install all the dependencies part and not the development dependencies. For you to install the development dependencies, you have to navigate into the chalk folder like this and then run npm install. By the way, I is a shortcut for install. When you do that, the two packages which were as part of the dev dependencies are now added to the node module. Generally, you don't need them unless until you are evaluating a package locally and then running test cases about these things and so on, which is not required. So this package.json here is quite a big one. We'll just take a look at it after we go through the slides. So here, for example, testing or documentation frameworks do not come as part of your dev dependencies. Peer dependencies. These are used to show dependencies in your package if your package is a plugin for some other library. So generally what happens is that so far we have, as I told you, we have only public projects. We do not have any concept of private NPM projects. So in the public projects also there are many open source projects which have more than one plugin or one module. So each of the module runs together with each other. In that case, right, you can deploy them with different versions. So let us say that you're building a module called as super module and it uses child module 1 and child module 2. In that case, you say name super module, peer dependencies child module 1 and child module 2. This goes to show that choco-py can be installed with version 3 and above Choco 3. That is what the version 3.x means. So we're going to talk a bit more about the versioning and what are the good and bad things to do with it. Also, Choco is also installed along with the ChocoPy module when you run npm install. There are other sections called as bundle dependencies, optional dependencies. Generally, we rarely use these three properties. So far, I did not find a need to use all these things because I'm going to introduce you to a tooling system which takes care of this thing. So bundle dependencies, an array of dependencies that will be bundled with your package. Optional dependencies, dependencies that will be installed, but NPM will proceed further if the dependency cannot be found or the installation of the dependency fails. So generally the core modules of Node uses these concepts, bundle dependencies and optional dependencies. So sometimes when you're running an NPM install of a core package, you might be seeing this optional package failed or bundle dependency not available. Still the development works because they have written it in such a way. Next, there's another property called as engine. So you can provide which version of Node and which version of NPM is needed for the module to run. It is kind of mentioning the version of your runtime. So you say I want Java 5, Java 6, Java 7, Java 8. Similarly, you can mention the version of Node.js and the version of NPM needed for your project to run. So if you're using any Node 0.12.x specific features, so you say that the minimum version of Node should be greater than or equal to 0.12 or 0 and less than so and so or as you wish. Similarly, the version of NPM of which version you would like the commands to be run in. Most importantly, it is your program's responsibility to handle the lack of such dependencies. When you're working with bundle dependencies and optional dependencies, it is your responsibility to take care that if any of them crash, your module does not crash. The same concept goes as with any good developer. A good developer would always make sure that his application runs smoothly irrespective of the hiccup. You can also provide other properties like engine strict, OS, CPU, global variables, private, publish config. So one thing which is one key property here is called as preferred global. Here, this is set to true. Your package is primarily a command line package that needs to be installed globally. This will throw a warning if a user installs it locally. So we never set this property if I'm not wrong. We generally use the libs property inside your package.json to make it globally available. There is another resource on npmjs.com, so that is this, which consists of all the properties that package.json consists of. That is this. Pretty much what you have seen so far is pulled from here, but I would rather recommend you guys following this link, which I'm going to paste it to all of you. So you guys can follow this link here. Sorry. Yep. Here, this will be consisting of more updated information than any of the slides at any point of time, because this is a continuously updating document. So as you can see, we will be using the property called as bin to do this process. So you say bin my app, and then you mention the name of the JS file that gets invoked when you start or run an application. So we're going to deal with this more when we create our own application. You can also look into other properties of Package.json here, which is needed for your application. Before you start doing something a bit different in the Package.json, definitely consider going through these things, these properties which are available, and some of them have very minimal explanation, whereas others have a lot of explanation. You can go through Google, search them, and then you get the results. So the reason why I'm giving you an elaborated explanation of this is because NPM is still changing, and in a few days, currently NPM 2.x is going on, NPM 3.x will be released. Then a few properties of this might be changed and might be different from what we are seeing here today. So the best bet for you guys is to come here, check out what is there in this particular file.